Hello, happy Tuesday. Welcome into Let's Bet It. We had a Monday, still fun day yesterday. Last night was crazy. Lauren Jbara here with Jared Smith to break it all down. Lots to talk about. What did you think about the Monday Night Football night last night, Jared?
Well, I knew laying with 6 with the Steelers was not a good bet. Even though I feel like they played well enough to cover that game, it really was
Yeah.
that punt. It was the punt fumble that really switched that game on its head. I thought Chicago could have won that game. I thought the refereeing was absolutely dreadful. Tony Corrente was
Dreadful.
awful. And I was looking back. Do you remember 2 months ago when we loved Justin Herbert and the Chargers against the Cowboys?
I still have a futures bet on him to win MVP.
Absolutely. But my point is, in that game, the Chargers against the Cowboys, I remember I had a player prop best bet of the day on Herbert over 1.5. I know you really like the Chargers in that game. And I look back on my Twitter timeline, Tony Corrente wiped out 2 touchdowns from Herbert in that game on questionable calls. And history 2 months later just repeats itself. Tony Corrente's crew totally ruined that game last night, but Pittsburgh still came through when they needed to. Nice win for them, even though it was obviously marred in some controversy. And for Chicago, I thought Justin Fields played great. I think he's going to continue to get better. And it's funny, of the quarterbacks that were drafted in the first round, Jones and Fields, which were the last 2 quarterbacks were taken in that first round, looked to be the best of the two of the class. So kind of interesting how that works out with the Lawrence and Wilson kind of being laggards, and Trey Lance kind of being laggards in the quarterback class so far.
I can't believe that we're already moving on to week 10 of NFL.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy? It feels like the season is just
It always goes
flying
fast.
by. I know, and this is the week 10 of Let's Bet It. Look at that. Stars aligning.
Right.
Stars aligning. I love it. I love it. All right, we got a lot to talk about today. A lot of different sports we're getting into. Some early birds. We're talking early birds heading into this weekend for college football because there's a big game that's coming up. I don't know if you've heard what it is. Michigan, Penn State. Just saying.
No, I didn't know.
Ugh, you don't.
Who's
don't
Penn
tell me
State?
that.
Do we need to? Oh, you mean wait? It's this team right here with the stadium back there. With all
I'm
that
in a
fucking light
hotel
behind it?
right now, or else I would have Michigan stuff behind. I do have a Michigan hat. I could go grab it really quick if we need to. Maybe
We're gonna
later.
have this is a swag bet week. This is
Yes.
a swaggiest of the swag bet. This is of all
Swag
the
bet,
swag bets.
candy
This is
corn,
the one.
Peep, get it all in
Yeah,
there.
this
Get
is
it
the
all in
one.
there. Also, college basketball starts
Love.
tonight. And I'm
Swoon.
so excited to get back into betting college basketball. We take you to the ice, talk about some of our NHL picks, and then we can't end without, guess what, our Pickswise 3-star play of the day and our best bets of the day. Are you ready for it, Jared?
Let's
Are
roll.
you ready for it?
Are you ready?
Is that a yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, of course. Let's bet it. Let's bet it. Early birds. I know every single week we give our early bird specials, but this week is just a little more special because Michigan, my alma mater, is playing Penn State, your alma mater, and it's going to be a really exciting game, but Michigan's still going to kick Penn State's ass. So
That's your opinion. That's not a fact. We need to put a disclaimer on the screen that is an opinion, not a fact.
What are you thinking about that game? Let's just start it off the bat with Michigan, Penn State.
So the market's kind of, I don't want to call it unsettled, but
Yeah.
I was surprised this game opened as a pick'em, because you would expect Michigan to be favored in this spot.
Heavy favorite.
And I've actually seen a little creepy, post-Halloween ghoulish movement towards the Nittany Lions here, which means there's some sharp money coming in on Penn State, which means we're going to have perhaps the same situation we had last week with Wake and UNC. Granted, Wake was undefeated, but it was still a ranked team catching points on the road against an unranked team. And the game almost closed at 3. So I don't know if it's going to get to 3, but I think Penn State's defense is, to me, the key here. If they can turn Michigan into a one-dimensional team, take away that running game, which Michigan wants to establish the run. That's their main squeeze on offense. And if Penn State takes that away and they turn McNamara into a thrower in this game, I know Michigan has some quarterback situation. Aren't they kind of rotating another guy in?
A little bit.
Which kind of scares me as well, because he had the big fumble against Michigan State. His name is eluding me, but I'd be a little concerned with the line movement if you want to back Michigan. Obviously, I'm biased. I want Penn State to win. I'm going to be rooting for Penn State. But I do think from an unbiased perspective, the line movement favors Penn State. It looks like the Nittany Lions are the sharper side. But as you know, once the ball gets kicked off, none of that means anything.
The one thing I will say in your favor is Blake Corum injured last week against Indiana. And I know, between him and Hassan Haskins, like they're the best. I mean, I think they're the best running back tandem in the nation. And you look at what Hassan Haskins did last week. I guess it was against Indiana, but he was still rushing for 168 yards. So he kind of picked up the slack when Blake Corum went down. Corum's status right now is still uncertain. They don't know if he's going to be in or not. Fingers crossed for my side that he is. You're probably like, no, keep him out. Keep him out.
I don't like people to get hurt or injured. I don't root for those things. I don't like that, like winning in that way. If Penn State's going to win, I want them to win fair and square.
Yeah, and the thing you were saying about the quarterback, Cade McNamara did spend some time in the injury tent last week. That's why JJ McCarthy got a few snaps.
Okay.
And I am betting with my heart in this one.
Of course. There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I really want my team to win in this one. They're 8-1 on the season. This
is kind of the season now because they lost to Michigan State, and if they lose another game, they're out of the race to make the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, and I also did see a projection that Michigan's chances of making the football playoff is still 20%.
Yeah, because everything's in front of them. Same thing with Michigan State. Even though they lost to Purdue, if they beat Ohio State and if they beat Penn State, and I think they're going to beat Maryland this week. We'll get to that game in a minute. They're also in the playoff. So the Big Ten is, I think all three of those teams, Michigan State, Michigan, and Ohio State, are all in control of their own destiny. And at this stage of the year, week 11, that's all you can ask for, right?
I know. I'm so thankful that Purdue beat Michigan State last week, which is crazy. They've upset 2 teams this year. 2 teams. It's crazy.
They're going to have a much tougher time this week of upsetting another team.
I know. That's very true. All right. Let's get into some of your early birds because I'm hungry. I'm feeling like breakfast. I love a good early bird special. Okay. What do you got?
You want the 2 eggs over easy, side of
3
bacon?
Eggs, actually, 3. I usually do like the lumber. I always do like the lumberjack breakfast, like the 3 eggs, bacon, sausage, and ham, toast, hash browns. Like I'm starving.
She might be small in stature, but she packs a punch at the breakfast table. So it's actually funny because when I do the early birds every week, I usually don't do a lot of Big Ten games just because the movement in those games tends to be pretty stable because it's a conference that, is pretty highly booked. Of all the conferences, I'd say the Big Ten is probably up there with the SEC as the most bet on conferences every week. But there were 2 games that really stood out to me this week. And we'll start with, it's actually both of the other teams that are competing for the Big Ten championship. So Michigan State, I'm going to lay 11.5 with Michigan State this week against Maryland. So, we always talk about letdown, bounce back. It's almost like zigzag. Like one week it could be a letdown, the next week it's a bounce back. Well, last week, obviously letdown for Michigan State, off the win at Michigan. They lose at Purdue. Now it's the other side of the market. We're going to bounce back with Sparty against Maryland. Maryland really struggles on defense. I watched the entire Maryland-Penn State game on Saturday, and they let Jahan Dotson just do whatever he wanted. I mean, it was left, right, center, screens, deep passes. I think Kenneth Walker is going to have similar success this week against a very bad Maryland defense. 109th in opponent points per game, 101st in third down conversion. I think Michigan State's a tougher team than Maryland. And with Mel Tucker coming off of the loss, I trust them to be mentally ready for this game. And how about this? In their last 2 road games, Maryland's been outscored 100-33, 34-16 at Minnie, and 66-17 at Ohio State. So they don't play well on the road. They haven't played well on the road this year. And East Lansing, this is it. I mean, you can't lose another game if you're Sparty and you want to make it to the playoff. Speaking of making the playoff, Purdue, we talked about that crazy game. Now they get to, so it's like the opposite. So Purdue let down after their big win at Ohio State. The Buckeyes are ready for this game.
I mean,
I think this is a really bad matchup for Purdue. Because as good as Michigan State is on offense, they don't spread out as much as Ohio State does. Michigan State's offense is more in a phone booth. Give it to Walker. Let him do his thing. I think Ohio State's going to spread the field And I think CJ Stroud's just going to pick apart this Boilermakers defense. And isn't it curious after Purdue's huge win that they're still laying almost 3 touchdowns or getting
crazy.
almost 3 touchdowns? That's an absurd number. And here is the nugget for me that I really like. So the last time Purdue played Ohio State was ranked 2nd in the country. They were undefeated. They looked like to be the best team in college football. And they went to Purdue, who was unranked, and they got beat by 29 points, 49-20. I don't know if you remember that game or not.
I don't.
But it was such a big game. And I'm assuming that there's probably a handful of senior leaders on this Ohio State team that remember that trip to West Lafayette 3 years ago. And they're going to want – I could see the score being the opposite this time, 49-20 Buckeyes. So we got Michigan State laying 11 and a hook. We got Ohio State laying 19. And then remember last week we liked Houston against USF?
Yes.
We got really hosed hard in that game.
Hard.
So
last weekend just wasn't a good weekend for us.
So
Talking to Personnel.
So we laid 12.5 with Houston at USF.
Yeah.
They won by 12. And the Bulls returned 2 kicks for a touchdown in that game. I mean, one kickoff return for a touchdown is fluky enough. 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns. Long story short, Houston gets another chance to blow out a bad team this week. They face Temple, who's coming off a 45-3 loss to ECU. And Houston still has everything in front of them. They have a chance to win the American Conference. They can go to the American Conference title game. They can beat Cincinnati in that game. Yeah. They are going to keep the pedal down. And I think Temple's just really bad. So those are our 3 early birds this week. A couple of Big Ten. And then we'll try to go back to the well with the Cougs. Go Cougs.
Are you betting the Penn State-Michigan game?
Yes, but I'm more betting it with my heart. Actually, it's funny because one of my buddies, one of my Vegas guys texted me this week, and he said Penn State's the sharper side. And I was like, crap. Because I don't like betting Penn State.
Yeah, you like betting against everyone else.
Yeah, I don't like betting Penn State when they're a favorite. Even though they're only a 1-point favorite, it's still like it goes against like my Penn State religion to bet on them when they're a favorite. But maybe I'll make an exception for you this week. We're going to have some other action on this game.
Do you think Penn State's the favorite because Blake Corum, they don't know his status for this game? Why are they the favorites in this one?
Because it's the same reason why North Carolina was favored last week against Wake.
Yeah.
Like it's just the power ratings just say that Penn State's better. But also the power ratings are a little misleading because Penn State, it's a noon game, first of all. Yeah. And also the fact that Penn State's favored by less than a field goal tells me on a neutral field, Michigan will be favored, which makes sense. And I think if this game was played at the Big House, it would probably be 5 or 6.
Yeah, I saw Penn State's doing a whiteout with a little bit of blue. I'm kind of confused.
I don't like a noon whiteout. First of all,
it's not the same.
I know you experienced this. Noon tailgating is tough.
Oh, you got to wake up at like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Get ready to go. And this is after you've gone out the night before as a college student.
Of course.
It's just, I mean, it's really a grind, if you will. Going out on a Friday night, waking up early, going out again for a tailgate. It's tough life. Tough life.
I think I'd really like to see you wear that really adorable Nittany Lions hat.
Yeah, we need to do a swag bet. We'll
I already have my
Michigan on Friday because I think we need to add more than just swag.
Oh.
Yeah. I think it needs to be a full-on like fear factor, like eat something weird too.
You love the fear. See, you have the adrenaline. You're an adrenaline junkie. I'm not.
I'm still riding my coffee high from last night. My heart's still beating like a baby bunny rabbit, and it's from my coffee last night. I don't even know if it's
baby bunny rabbit.
All right, I look at some of my picks. Moving on from that.
Moving on from the bunny rabbit. We're gonna get some weird calls today to the Pickswise hotline.
I look at Baylor. I think that they're going to stay within the spread against Oklahoma this week. Okay. And I look at them. They were upset last week by TCU, but they've done a great job against the spread this season. They've gone 5-3 against the spread, 4-0 mark at home. I see Oklahoma picking the straight up win. I think they're going to score probably a little over 30 points probably. But the Bears, I look at what they've been able to do. They're second in Big 12 in scoring offense. And I think they're going to match Oklahoma score for a majority of this game. I think Oklahoma's going to win, but I think the Baylor Bears are going to stay within the spread in this one. So we'll see what happens with that. Again, it's the same thing, a bounce back game from after being upset by TCU, right? So they're kind of in the same spot that Michigan State's in terms of mentality. And then I look at Notre Dame and I have them laying 4.5 against Virginia. And I swear this is not just, me. I actually had a conversation with my dad the other day. He goes, "You guys just stop betting Notre Dame and Michigan." He goes, "You got to."
I told you, your dad and I are spirit animals.
Yes. He said you have to spread your wings a little bit. Well, guess what? My wings are still just little baby Angry Bird wings. They're just little baby wings. But I still
I think we're gonna take these off
Baylor
the board.
bet.
We're gonna take these off the board. Like, you can't. New rule next week. Lauren is not allowed to bet Michigan or Notre Dame. Like, Jack, we need our producer Jack to remove those from the board for you.
What am I gonna do? No, but this one's actually, I feel really, really good about Notre Dame for laying 4.5 against Virginia. And they've been also strong against the spread this season. They're 6-3 ATS this season. Virginia comes into the matchup, big concerns on defense after the Cavs. I think they gave up 66 points to BYU in their last outing. I just see Notre Dame keeping Virginia's high-flying offense basically in check. I think the Cavs score under 30 points. So
you know me, I'm always honest with you about my reactions.
Yeah, totally.
I've gotten better of being a little bit meaner because that's, I guess, they want me to be mean to you. But I'm going to be nice today because the market actually agrees with you on both of these games.
Really? I don't think the under is going to hit in this game. So I'm considering
see what the market says on the
under as well.
The under is I'm not seeing a ton of, actually everyone's on the over. The early money's on the over, and it hasn't moved up, but it hasn't really moved down either. But the market definitely agrees with you on Notre Dame, and it really agrees with you on Baylor, because I'm shocked after Baylor's loss that line opened 6, and you would think after Baylor's loss and Oklahoma, Oklahoma's been playing pretty good ball, especially with Caleb Williams. You would think that line would move to 7, but it hasn't. It's actually gone down to 5.5. So
it has gone down to 5.5.
The market agrees with you on both of these games.
I'm going to wait.
Lauren Jbara, the sharp college football gambler this week.
Hello, people. That's why we have this show, Jared. That's why we have this show. But in terms of Notre Dame, I just see that I see them covering the spread easily. I see them winning by double digits and picking up the cover. So
Virginia's bad.
They're bad.
If Notre Dame's gonna spread, speaking of spreading their wings, this is the game where their defense, their running game, could just control this tempo, and Lauren's gonna fly all the way to South Bend and click her heels. Luck of the Irish.
Notre Dame's gonna win. Notre Dame's gonna win easily, handedly in this game. All right, we always get into our dumpster dive.
I love these.
And I put one in there. I'm still unsure about it. I know you have it for your best bet of the day as well. So I'm going to save it, and then I'll give a little insight about it. We'll get to you.
I'm undecided on my best bet, actually. We might have some fun. I think we're going to play a fun game later for which bet Jared is, because I'm terrible at this. I have 7 bets today, and I have no idea which is the best one. They're all good in my eyes. So I don't know how you pick a best one.
Well, I'll help you narrow down.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
What is your dumpster dive game of the week?
So usually I give out games that are taking place later in the week, but I feel remiss. We have to talk about Maction, because everyone loves Maction. And I think Maction is it's like a cult following when it comes to gambling, because you either love it or you hate it. And here's what I hate about it. Do not bet an under in Maction. Even if it looks like the best under ever. And it's the 2 best defenses in all of college football, which in the MAC will never happen. I cannot bet an under in Maction. So I look to see if there's overs that are available. And there's 2 of them that I really like tonight. Okay. So this Akron Western game is very curious. So Akron just fired their coach this week, Tom Arth. And they're replacing him with an interim guy. I think he's the associate head coach, which doesn't really matter. But what does matter is, I'm always fascinated how teams play the week after they fire their head coach. I think in the NFL, it's a little different because they're professionals. In college football, I think it actually turns teams into mutant versions of themselves, because they know that, if there was an issue with the coach, it's usually they're going to go the exact opposite the following week. So if a coach wasn't aggressive enough, or maybe a little bit too conservative on whatever, they're going to just turn up the volume 100% this week. So I think that's the vibe I get from Akron, is we're going to see, maybe some trick plays or, a faster tempo, some things that are different than the previous, regime, during Tom Art's 3 years as head coach. Western, on the other hand, they're a top 10 team in tempo. They run a ton of plays per game, and they don't play defense, 92nd in opposing yards per play. So I think Akron's going to be a little more aggressive on offense than usual tonight. And I think Western's going to be their usual aggressive, high-scoring self. 61.5 feels like a relatively average total in college football.
Totally.
And Akron scored 25 last week, which means we would only need 36 or 37 from Western to get to this total.
They're very capable of doing.
Their team total tonight's like 40. So I think that's a very fair number. So we're going to go over in the Akron Western Michigan game. Speaking of overs, how about Eastern Michigan? Listen to this number. 3 straight overs for the Eagles. In those 3 games, the combined total score, 138 to 111. Just points after points after points.
Wow.
Ohio has scored 5 straight games with at least, I think, 27 points. Yes, 27 points, at least 5 straight games with 27 points. And the last game they played was 35-33. And Ohio's not known for having a high-scoring offense.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to be able to run the ball in this game against Eastern's defense. And the opposing yards per play are both poor for both defenses. Eastern's 96, Ohio's 108. And Eastern's going to be able to pass it because Ohio can't stop the pass. So we're going to go over in Ohio, Eastern Michigan as well, 60.5. So 2 overs in Maction tonight. Diving in the dumpster for Maction totals. We love it.
Yeah, I was actually looking at that Ohio Eastern Michigan game, and I actually have EMU minus 5.5, laying the points in this one. I don't really have a ton of reasons why, to be honest with you, but I just think it's been a woeful year for the Ohio Bobcats. They enter at 2-7, and here enters Eastern Michigan University, and I just have a really good feeling about them laying the points. So we're doing that. We're doing it.
I think if you're going to bet one action game tonight, I do like this Ohio Eastern game. I think Eastern scores a ton of points tonight. I think they throw it all over the yard.
I might actually tail you on that over too. Why not?
What's betting how about this? How about you do a money line parlay or just a Eastern Michigan money line same game parlayed with the over? You don't have to worry about the spread.
I think I might.
Why not? It's Maction.
Why not?
Have some fun. Maction's fun. I recommend every person every week. It's like drinking 1 glass of red wine a day. Bet 1 Maction game a week. It's good for your soul. It's good for your soul.
Good for your soul. Good for your health.
Yeah.
Jared, I'm so excited because college basketball starts tonight. It's going to be so exciting to get back into it. But obviously the first day of any, sport starting, there's not very much information going on, and the odds makers might not necessarily know how to cap these games. So when you're looking to bet college basketball tonight, how do you kind of go about it, and how do you do it with no real current data?
College hoops is, I think, the biggest enigma wrapped in a riddle in the gambling world. Story time. I know you love my stories. This is a great story. So 2 years ago, when I first started working in gambling media, obviously I was doing a lot of outreach and I wanted to, learn more about how to make odds and talk to actual Vegas bookmakers. I connected with a Penn State alum who at the time was working at CG Technology, which was the bookmaker that ran the Venetian and a few the other books out in Vegas. And he was a Penn State alum. So we connected on LinkedIn and then we started chatting and then I called him on the phone. Good old LinkedIn. And he's one of my friends today. He's actually very prominent on Twitter, Sportsbook Consigliere. His name's Dave Sharapan. Great guy, awesome guy, lives out in Vegas, does a lot of work for media companies now. But at the time he was still bookmaking, for CG. And, I was asking him questions about his past. He worked overseas. He booked games in Costa Rica for some of the offshores at times. And then he came to Vegas and, started his more, onshore bookmaking career. And the biggest takeaway from that, it was a 2-hour phone call at like midnight Eastern. It was like 9 o'clock for him out in Vegas. And the biggest takeaway for me on that call was he said repeatedly how much sleep he would lose on a daily basis trying to book college basketball totals and spreads, especially early in the season and especially mid-major conferences. And it makes sense. Think about how many college football teams there are in the FBS, 130. Multiply that by 3 for college basketball. There's over 350 NCAA Division I college basketball teams. Yeah. It is impossible to have an edge on everything and to know who is the prominent player and what are the systems and what are the coaching going to do. There are so many variables, and it's a high volume sport because the totals are 140, 150, 160. So the moral of this story is, if you do your homework and you study, the MAC conference or the Mountain West, whatever crazy conference is your conference, but if it's a mid-major conference and if you feel like you have an edge in that, knowing the teams or you've been to practices or you've been to games, there is opportunities available in college basketball in these markets, especially early in the year. I personally don't have the time, because we're booked in the NFL. We got a lot of other stuff going on content-wise. I wish I had more time to really do my homework with college hoops, especially in November. But if you know people who do, or if you are one of those people, A, text me your picks. B, there are opportunities available. And we're going to have some college basketball experts on the show pretty soon. One of them is really good. Actually, they're all really good, but one of them I really trust a lot with the mid-majors. And do your homework, because you could beat this market, especially in November and December.
That's really interesting. So we're like, yes, I cannot wait for college basketball. And he's like, no, I cannot wait to not.
Yeah, exactly. That he loses sleep over it. Like, he was like, I don't know how to book this, Texas UTSA random game. Like, crazy.
Yes. Okay, so what are you looking at heading into tonight? Because there's quite a few games going on.
Yeah, so I'm going to put a little sprinkle on Kentucky. Ooh. It's not a very sharp, like, I don't really have any info. Again, I have no sharp info on this. This is just early season. I'm just kind of, feeling my way out. Kentucky was really bad last year, and I have a feeling they're going to want it. First of all, their recruiting class is unbelievable. I think they're going to bounce back really strong. The other really interesting take that I have in college hoops, the first half overs in the Gonzaga games are like a lock every time. So I'm going to be betting the first half over in every Gonzaga game until it loses. Season. Yeah. So tonight they play Dixie State. Good luck finding info about Dixie State college hoops. But Gonzaga, the total is 81.5. So I'm going to go over there. And then the other one I like, Northern Arizona, over 140.5. Again, I don't have any. These are picks I'm getting from some, friends and some people that I trust. But that's one that looks like it's going to steam up a little bit. I bet that over closes a little higher than 140 tonight.
Yeah, I actually did quite a bit of research for this college basketball section because I am so excited that it's back.
You like college hoops,
and I thought, what the heck? I'm just going to do a whimsical Jbarlay. But before I tell you what that is, I want to talk about the Bowling Green Falcons going against the Western Carolina Catamounts. I'm betting the over in this game. What did you say?
Of course, that's the game everyone wants to talk about today.
And I've been like ready for this segment so I can just talk about Bowling Green going up against Western Carolina. I'm betting the over in this one, over 151.5. And you're like, oh, that's kind of high. You know what? I like it anyways. Nothing like a potential barn burner on opening night. All right. The line is hefty, but it's for a good reason. Bowling Green and Western Carolina, I looked at their last season. They're more offensive oriented programs and they love to get up and down the floor. Both of them ranking as top as 80 teams in pace. So I look at what Bowling Green was able to do last year. They posted the second most shot attempts in the entire nation last season. They embodied the more possession, more attempts, more points kind of a philosophy. I look at also the other side. They relied on a heavy guard rotation to ignite their offense. As a result, I think that they should, trot it out. I think there's going to be a balanced backcourt. I just think both of these offenses are going to go and fire, basically. I think you look at what the Catamounts were able to do, efficient offense last season. They pieced together a field goal percentage within the top 100 nationally. And they had 4 guards that were rotating and they were posting double digits, basically spreading the ball around, balanced scoring on their team. So I look at coming into this season, most of them have the same pieces, and I think that they're going to go over in this one. I think it's going to be very little defense and a lot of offense heading into this game. So we'll see what happens. But My Jbarlay. My whimsical Jbarlay that I don't really know how I feel about, but I'm still
Whimsical.
betting it anyways because
That was an adjective I would use to describe you. Whimsical.
whimsical? Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
I would use
I don't
that
know if that's a
adjective to
compliment or
describe
not, but hey.
it. It is. It is.
Thanks. Okay. Northern Arizona at Arizona. I have Arizona laying 25. Okay.
That's a big number.
Yeah.
But you know what? They can win by 70. I hope they score at least 141 points combined.
Yeah.
But besides
Wait for this
that,
one.
you're good.
Tennessee Tech at Memphis. Memphis laying 27.5. And I parlayed them together.
The Fighting Penny Hardaways.
Yep. I parlayed them together. It is valued at plus 250. And we're going for it. I'm like, if I'm doing a whimsical Jbarlay, I'm going to pick two of the biggest spreads that I see and say,
hope you got your Tums ready. Well, very chalky.
Let's just go in on it. Why not?
Have fun.
I look at what Arizona team history against the Lumberjacks. They've been favorable. They've won 15 games in as many tries, and the winning margins have been growing. Last season, I think the score was like close to like 100-50. I don't know the exact score, but it was something around that. So I think that, and I think what we're going to see is going to be a little bit different this year. The Wildcats have improved length and possess disruptive factors to replicate the rebounding dominance, forced turnovers. Northern Arizona has not established itself as a particularly potent offensive powerhouse.
Preach.
And
that was some good alliteration right there.
Thank you. And often struggle with issues of efficiency. But I don't think that matters are going to be any easier for them this time around. Seeing the leader duo for the Lumberjacks, their two top scorers, they're no longer on the roster. So I think finding a way to replace 25 to 30 points a game is going to make life difficult for them. So bet Arizona laying 25 in that game.
Two things. First of all, if you had the over 1.5 Lumberjack references on the show, you win. You just mentioned the Lumberjacks, and we talked about the Lumberjack breakfast off the top of the show. So I would not.
I honestly did not even plan that, but that went pretty well. Thank you.
No, I never would have guessed over 1.5 Lumberjack references on the show. So there's first. Second, to add on to your handicap and to polish what I think is the best way to approach college basketball, sign up for Ken Palm's website. He has the best info, the offensive efficiency, I've been a Ken Palm subscriber for like 10 years. And they have everything in there: tempo, defense, offense, like the strength of schedule, all that stuff. And also teams losing key players. Like, I think that's a key thing too, like top scorers returning and not returning. Those are all things that it's a nice way to look. Like I use during college basketball season, like Ken Palm's like a tab that's like locked into my browser. It's really good info for college basketball bettors.
I like it.
Yeah.
Did we tell you about Memphis laying 27.5?
Tell me about Memphis.
I think they're a new look team this year. And you look at who they signed in the offseason: Jalen Duran and Amani Bates. I mean, those are the number 1 and 2 overall recruits in the 2021 class. And I think they provide exceptional talent and depth to this roster. Let me also tell you a stat. It's bad news for Tennessee Tech. Want to know why? Because straight up against Memphis, 1 in 41. That's not very good. To make matters worse, these 4 games didn't simply see teams go crazy. I just look at what I'm just like getting all up in my feels right now.
You love college hoops. I didn't know you were so passionate about college.
I love college hoops. I love college hoops. I look at Tennessee Tech's defense last season, 324th ranked defense last season. So when you're going up against a team like Memphis, who has 2 new powerhouse players on their team, and you're just Tennessee Tech and you're just not very good, 27.5 just doesn't seem like as much, in my opinion. So why not? Whimsical Jbarlay, Memphis laying 27.5, and Arizona laying 25. We're going for it. Jared, do you want to tail me on this one or what?
Maybe. That's pretty chalky.
No.
But no, here's why I don't want to tell you on it.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Because I don't want to ruin it. I like letting you spread your wings and fly with the Jbarlays. And then if you get hot or cold, I'll step in later and try to break the streak. Hopefully
Okay,
I won't break
perfect.
the hot streak.
Perfect. That sounds
I
good
will
to me.
say this. I do like your analysis on the Memphis pick a lot. I thought of the two, that's the one I like the most. Because
Okay.
I agree with you that Memphis has that, that swag because of Penny
Yeah.
and the recruiting class. Whereas I don't know as much about Arizona's team returning. I just like the total there because I think it's kind of low.
Yeah.
But what the heck do I know? Like
I know.
I
Hey, it's
I
day
have no
one.
idea.
It's
Games
day
like
one, so we're going with it.
day one.
I know. What's not day one is NHL. I think they're like 12, 13 games into the regular season, and we're starting to see some trends develop. Teams that we didn't think necessarily would be as good at the beginning of the season are good. Cue the Detroit Red Wings. No offense to my hometown. And teams that we didn't think or that we thought would be performing at a higher level are not necessarily. And then some teams are just surprising us, like Carolina starting the season 9-1, or 9-0, which is pretty incredible for them. So let's take it to the ice. Looking at some of your NHL picks tonight, Jared, who do you got?
Yeah, I was thinking about that Carolina game against Tampa.
Yeah.
Last night I had Tampa on my list, and the overnight line movement scared me off. It's moving towards Carolina, and it makes sense. I think Carolina is probably going to bounce back, but I laid off that game. If I had to pick it, I would have taken Tampa, but the line movement scared me a little bit, so I didn't play it. But we are going to do the zigzag approach with the Panthers.
Yeah.
Last night we were on the Rangers. It was our best bet. The Rangers looked tremendous last night. But in the third period, Florida really started to rev their engines, and I think they're really tough. And I think they're going to bounce back tonight against the Devils because last night the Rangers had the edge in goal. Spencer Knight against Igor. Tonight, Bobrovsky's back in, and Mac Blackwood has not been good for the Devils. So I think Florida gets back tonight. The Devils have lost 3 of their last 4 games. And again, I think the Panthers will carry over that momentum. They don't have to travel. They're in New York, obviously, and they're playing the Devils tonight. And I think they'll carry over that momentum from last night. I think they'll win. They're laying about 35 cents on the road at the Rock, the Prudential Center. Speaking of your Red Wings, I think they're actually playing. You're right. They're playing slightly better than I think people thought. And they're scoring at a rate that nobody would have expected.
Like 5-6 goals a game. It's wild.
And guess who they play tonight? The team that's like the highest scoring team in the NHL besides Florida, Edmonton, with Connor McDavid running around the ice like he's Peter Rabbit going nuts.
Yeah.
This could be a 7 or 8 goal game tonight. I got in at 6 to the over at -120. I feel like 4-2 is like the baseline score here. I think 5-2 or 6-3 maybe is more likely. Edmonton has had 6 goals or more in 8 of their last 9, 7 goals or more in 7 of those games. Detroit has had 6 goals or more in 3 straight and 4 or 5. So
that's
goals, it is. And I think the Detroit side of it's even more surprising. And then we'll close with, I'd love to hear your experience at the Saddle Dome in Calgary, because I think the Flames are due for a big win tonight against the Sharks. So Calgary's last 5 wins have all been on the puck line, which means over 1.5 goals. And how about this? The scoring margin in those 5 victories, 24-4. So they are blowing teams out when they win. The Sharks have held up relatively well, despite, remember we talked about last week, all those COVID issues for the Sharks? Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's starting to catch up with them now because they've lost 2 in a row. So usually they've got like 7 guys on the COVID list still. And Evander Kane is still suspended. So I think the Sharks are kind of regressing, and I think the Flames puck line +125 tonight to lay it with Calgary. And I'm curious your experience at the Saddle Dome, because I heard it's an awesome vibe there.
It is an awesome vibe. My first game there was actually game 5 of the first round of the NHL playoffs. Wow. So my first game with the Colorado Avalanche was game 3 of the playoffs against Calgary. It was Cale Makar's also first game of his NHL career as well. So both of us were rookies at the same time. It's pretty fun. But game five, when the Avs won that round to make it to the second round against San Jose, which they lost in 7 games. It was my first year with the Avs, my 3rd game with them. I was kind of thrown right into it, but it was at the Saddle Dome. It was really cool. And actually after that game, all of the Calgary fans were like throwing their jerseys onto the ice because remember they finished number 1 seed in the West.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And Avs like barely squeaked in. I was going to say squawk in, but I don't think that's
squawked in.
They barely squeaked in. And So it was a 1 playing an 8 seed, right? And the
Crazy.
Avs won in 5. And Calgary fans were throwing their sweaters onto the ice. I'm not kidding. There had to have been
Crazy Edmonton, Alberta people.
I was on the ice doing a post-game interview with both Tyson Barrie and Gabe Landeskog at the time. And there's just jerseys, sweaters flying left and right. I'm like,
hope you grabbed one. Those are expensive.
I know. I'm like, those things are like $200. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
I never understood, and I understand why people throw hats on the ice, but if I had a really nice hat, I'm not it's expensive.
Yeah. But I experienced the passion of the NHL.
Yeah, there's a lot of passion.
It drew me in. I love it. It was amazing.
That's on my bucket list. Vancouver and Calgary are like the 2 bucket list.
Vancouver was really awesome.
Hockey cities I really want to go visit.
Yeah. Vancouver was really awesome too. I'd say Calgary is very similar to Denver. It's like an hour away from the mountains. It's sunny every day, very dry in terms of climate. I love it.
The Sharks offense is dry tonight.
Good play on words. I like it.
Let's go.
You said you were looking at the Carolina Hurricanes Tampa Bay Lightning game, and I initially saw that you were on Tampa Bay money line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that originally?
I'm
taking the Hurricanes money line.
Good, because I didn't feel great about it. So I'm glad that you're confident on the other side, because that makes me feel better.
I locked it in at plus 125. I don't know if it's moved at all since then, but this is a pair of matchups between good teams. Carolina's been excellent this season. They're clicking. They have a rhythm. They know what they're doing. They were undone by one bad period on Saturday. So that brought their win streak to a screeching halt. But I look at what they've been able to do this season. 3 power play goals in that game in the opening 20 minutes. That's not going to fare well for anybody. But now they're going up against a dangerous Tampa Bay team. And this is exactly what we talked about, similar to like a Michigan State with a letdown. They're coming back for a good game next. I think the Lightning are at home here, but at the state, and that works in their favor, definitely. And they've played well after what was kind of a sluggish start to the season for them. But it's hard to say for me if the weekend game was a wake-up call for Carolina or a sign that maybe they were due for some regression. I don't think that they're due for some regression. Really, one bad period dictated the end result in that game because they dominated the second and third periods of that one. Either way, dealing with the defending 2-time champion like the Tampa Bay Lightning on the road is a tough challenge, but I think that Carolina is up for it. They've had a couple days off. They've been chilling in Tampa, and I think that they're going to be ready. So I'm taking the Carolina Hurricanes in this one, plus 125 money line.
Market agrees with you.
Really?
Yeah. So remember last night I saw some initial line movement towards Tampa, and then when I woke up this morning, it totally flipped. Yeah. And it's continuing to move towards Carolina. So the market's on your side tonight. I like the handicap of it is a coin flip game between, I would say, maybe the 2 best teams in the NHL or maybe 2 of the top 5 teams in the NHL. So to get plus money in what should be a coin flip kind of game, I think is probably the right approach. I think that's why the sharp money's come in on Carolina.
Definitely. The other game I'm looking at is Pittsburgh Penguins going up against the Chicago Blackhawks. I'm taking the Pens puck line. So they have to win by 2 goals or more in this one, plus 198. So it is plus money. But here's why I didn't just bet the money line. And here's why I bet the puck line instead. The Blackhawks are just awful this season. They're awful. They lost like their first 8 or 9 games of the season, and they lost 5 of their last 7. They've only won like 2 games so far this season, and they've been terrible defensively down the stretch as well. And I think even though that the Pens aren't playing extremely well at the moment, they're playing well offensively, and I don't think that they're going to have any trouble scoring against the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks also haven't been able to get it going offensively. I think they barely score 2 goals a game. I think they're averaging like 1.5 goals a game. And also on special teams, which is where sometimes a lot of the game is dictated is in special teams, whether you're on the power play or the penalty kill. The Blackhawks haven't really been that effective on special teams. They only convert 20-ish% of their power play opportunities, which you need to convert at least 30, 35 to make a difference in your game. So I think even though the Pens rank in the bottom half of the league in goals against, they are best in the league in killing penalties and won't let a lot of easy goals go. So Pittsburgh gets the win by 2 goals or more. I feel good about it. Pittsburgh Penguins puck line plus 198. What's the market say?
The Pickswise peeps agree with you. That's one of the best bets, one of the 3-star plays on the Pickswise site. We'll get to another one or some other ones in a second. But Josh Wagner, one of the hockey cappers on the Pickswise site, is the Penguins on the money line tonight. So that's a 3-star play on Pickswise website.
Cool. I'm liking it.
Yeah.
Speaking of, so is that our 3-star play of the day? You already gave it to us?
I have another one that's probably better. There's actually 6 of them on the site tonight. So
wow.
There's a lot of fodder.
Pickswise play of the day.
So of all of the ones, so there's 6 of them. There's 4 college basketball games, 2 NHL games. We just gave you one of the NHL ones. The other college basketball game that is noteworthy, we talked about Kentucky and Duke briefly a little earlier. The other game in that Champions Classic, which is always kind of like the kickoff, tip-off, big tournament for college hoops. Kansas and Michigan State. Our buddy Matt Weisenfeld, Wise Guy, is laying 4.5 with the Jayhawks tonight against Sparty. And I like that pick a lot. Michigan State, I saw a number. I don't remember it exactly, but it was something along the lines of Tom Izzo's early season against the spread struggles. And I think that makes sense. I think Michigan State's a team that gets better as the season goes on, whereas Kansas, I would expect them to come out a little more hot tonight. And Wise Guy, Matt Weisenfeld's got the write-up for you on Pickswise. It's a great nickname. On Pickswise.com. 3 stars on the Jayhawks tonight. Rock chalk, baby.
You're also a wise guy. What's your best bet? Win us the money. I know you've been vacillating on what is your best bet of the night. I don't even know what it is. I honestly don't even know because usually we put it down.
I put it down during our little spiel there. I think Maction, if I had to classify my Tuesday nights in November, I think Maction is my favorite part of it. So we'll go with a Maction game. And I think the reason that I'll pick Ohio Eastern is because of just how great those offenses have been the last few weeks. Whereas there is a little uncertainty for me with Akron's offense because of the coaching change. I feel very good about Western's offense tonight in that Akron-Western Michigan game. But of the 2 Maction games, both over, that I'm betting tonight, I feel slightly more confident in Ohio Eastern being a higher scoring game. So again, I've got 8 bets tonight, but I'll give the one best bet, which probably I'll go 7-1, and this will be the one loser probably. But we'll go Ohio Eastern over 60.5. If you want to know why, just scroll back and listen to our college football segment.
That's a good way to do it. Hey, scroll back and listen. It's good.
Scroll back.
I'm doing a completely different bet for my best bet of the day. I'm taking it back to the court. College basketball. If college basketball's back on, Jared, we got to just bet it. We got to bet
I love it.
I
didn't know you were so passionate about college hoops. I thought you were football, hockey, and basketball was kind of a distant third, but clearly
I like them all. I like them all for different reasons. You got to appreciate what you have for different reasons.
Oh, so deep and insightful. You're like a philosophizer.
I'm taking it to Alabama, Louisiana Tech, and Alabama. And I don't usually like betting Alabama anything because no roll tide, but it's okay. Louisiana Tech and Alabama under 156. Under.
Oh my God. A college basketball under.
Day, making myself sweat under 156.5 points per game. I think a huge part of Alabama, you're going to be like, what are you saying after I say this? A huge part of Alabama's offensive production, Alabama's offensive production and perimeter barrage shooting, they shoot teams out of the gym, basically.
They do. However, I remember it last year. They were really aggressive on offense.
However, their defensive production has flown under the radar, in my opinion. And I think that their defense has actually helped propel them to some of their results. They forced a lot of turnovers last season. They ranked 17th and 45th in the nation last year in steals and blocks. They had sound defensive principles that made life difficult for opponents. I looked at their opening opponent with Louisiana Tech, LA Tech, second in the conference in USA last season, and they bring a top 25 defensive squad to the floor as well. LA Tech on the offensive side, they had some balanced scoring. I think they had 6 players that were averaging around 9 points per game or so. They were also the mirror images of Alabama's defensive production outside of creative turnovers. They limit offensive opportunities for their opponents, and they challenged a lot of shots down the stretch. I didn't watch a ton of their games last season, but I have done a ton of research on this game. I think it's going to be hard for Louisiana Tech to make shots against Alabama. But I think that their defensive side is going to keep them in this one. Defense should carry the day for both teams in this opening matchup of the season. I think it's hard to expect these offenses to be humming from the start of the season anyways for any of these teams. So I think defense is going to carry them home. I'm sticking with the under in this one, under 156.5. It's my best bet of the day. Lock it in. Let's go, Jared.
An under on opening night of college basketball.
If you're not betting the under, what are you doing?
This is a schwitz and a half. I've already got my sauna, my in-home sauna ready to go for this one.
You ready? Are you going to bet
it? I don't know. I don't know if I can bet a college basketball under. I don't know if I have that kind of gumption that you do.
Don't you have a little faith in me? Come on now.
I have so much faith in you. College basketball unders are tough bets.
It's okay. I'll share my winnings with you tomorrow. Don't worry.
No, you won't. You'll buy some overpriced coffee in Salt Lake City or Denver instead.
It's true. It's very true.
Although I did hear that outside of New York City, which is where I buy my iced coffee is significantly cheaper. So maybe you'll get a discount.
I ordered room service in New York the other day. I ordered a coffee and a bagel. Guess how much it was?
$20.
20?
30? What? That's crazy. I'm not surprised.
40? $50.
What was it? Like, did they import the bagel from like?
This better be coffee from the freaking gods because, I mean, it was really good coffee.
I'll be honest. I don't think you did the New York coffee and bagel right. The next time you come into town, there's 2 spots that only the real New Yorkers, wink, wink, know about. I'll get you hooked up with a real New York bagel.
Sounds good. As long as it's not $50, I'm good.
No, it'll be like $3.99 and I'll pay for it.
Perfect. All right. That's it for us today. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to pickswise.com. Download the app. Follow us on Twitter. Jared Smith, Lauren Jbara. Best of luck tonight, guys. College basketball is back. Cannot even wait. Let's get it. Let's do it.